All right, Greenleaf fans. Yeah, my bad. I know this video is really late, but in my defense, like I mentioned before, Greenleaf was going to be placed on the back burner because not only did Tyler Perry drop two new shows, but out of nowhere there was a trailer for the haves and the have-nots, and that took us all by surprise. Like I was going to do my Greenleaf videos now before Wednesday night when the Oval popped up, but that trailer took priority. And I have to say that at the time of this recording, the video is knocking on the door of 20,000 hits in about, 2 days or so. So thank you so much. That's why I haven't posted a video in a couple of days, just because number one, I wanted that video to get more traction. Number two, a lot of stuff on my to-do list outside of YouTube. Like I say, busy is good. Number three, this episode was actually pretty fantastic. I obviously just finished it up. I got my notes here. I recorded my preview for this week's episode, God's Justice, before this one because obviously that's a lot shorter. But off the bat, 9 out of 10. And guys, no. Just because this video is late, I'm not making up for it by giving it a 9 out of 10. I thought this was a pretty well-rounded episode. I honestly thought it was very, very good. And I believe this is the first time this season that Judy Whitmore has shown up in person. I think she's only been mentioned a couple of times, specifically by, like Charity in regards to, being very pissed off about that Harmony and Hope song. And that's pretty much it. So this is the first time. And my gosh, I am a sucker for redheads. And is it wrong that I find her attractive? But Grace was looking great in like every flipping outfit she was wearing in this episode. So, and then Sophia, wow. But okay. Anyway, back to let's just get to the episode. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Let me know what you scored it in the comment section below. Of course, mention some of your favorite thoughts. But the episode starts off with Judy and Grace. Basically, Grace showed up because, Judy showed up because Grace met with Fernando, so I'm pretty sure that Fernando made that phone call after Grace left, asking for Bob Whitmore, so Judy was sent instead. And obviously, the title of the episode, Surprise, she wanted Grace to know why all the land is being bought up. And there is a deacon board meeting that she wants to hold and a vote to take place before Bob shows up in about 2 weeks. So then we go to Grace. This is a good scene. Basically, Grace is telling her folks and Jacob the plan and why Harmony and Hope is buying up all the land. And the way that May goes off on Jacob for selling that land had me rolling. And Jacob tells everybody about Charity and Phil. May goes off about that. And Bishop's making good points about the fact that nobody gives away money for free. There's something that they want. There's no way they're going to fund all this without it costing Calvary a dime. Like, it might not cost Calvary a cent, but it's going to cost them something. And May takes us to the next level. It's like, okay, what can we do to intercept this deacon board meeting? How about your father and I hold an impromptu re-engagement party? And Grace, I love, May has some of the best dialogue that I've ever heard in any of the shows that I review. Top tier. It's not just the dialogue, but Lynn Whitfield's delivery is amazing. Like, Mama, who's going to talk like you after you're gone? Nobody, dear. And I'm like, that was great. That was great. So then Jacob and Carissa are talking. Basically, Carissa, as Fernando, asked her to do, asked about, who would get the house after his folks died, and he wasn't sure. And, she was like, well, what about this? Maybe they'll leave it to you, you, Charity, and Grace. What if they buy us out to get the house? Because the house I wanted is gone. Somebody made a cash offer. And he doesn't want to ask about it. And it's like, she tries to play victim. And then when he mentions, what were you doing at the office the other day? She was like, about the cufflinks that I liked that I wanted for you. What do you think? So basically, she's just throwing the whole Tasha thing in his face and how, where were you all the nights I was lonely and this and that. So, playing the victim. Then we move over to Nikki and Zora looking at a slideshow. I believe Zora is supposed to be putting together a presentation for the re-engagement of Bishop and May. Sophia shows up, and I was a bit confused about how Sophia was utilized in this episode. Now, I know that there was a gap between the time I watched last week's episode, which, what was last week's episode? Was it Reunited? I think it was Reunited. Well, episode 7. I forgot what it was titled, but yeah, she just seemed like, I don't know how they utilized her in this episode. Again, she looked good, but I was just like, wait, is the whole thing about Sophia like, hey, I came back from college, now I feel like I've been forgotten and replaced. It's like Nikki is the new Sophia for Zora, and even at the party she wasn't recognized. Then she goes back to her room in Zora's place, and yeah, I don't want to skip too far ahead, but let's see here. Then we have Phil and Judy talking, and Phil is pretty much, upset that he's been left in the dark about everything. Not just that Grace found out about Bob's plans before he did, but the fact that even Phil had no idea about the whole arrangement of buying up the land and doing this and that. So it's just like he told Grace several episodes ago, I might be Bob Whitmore, but I don't know what Bob Whitmore is planning. Like, pretty much Bob is allegedly the mouthpiece of Phil's words, but Bob has agendas and moves and everything that not even Phil knows about. And then Judy gave the little speech that everybody hears at a job, and trust me, I know this feeling all too well. You are killing it at the job, but you are left in the dark about the job's true motives, what they're moving forward with, and pretty much you're working towards something that's been promised, but at the same time, it either doesn't happen or it does, but it's a minuscule reward for the work that you're doing. She says he's appreciated, wink, and I'm like, wait a minute, a wink? Then we have Charity and Bishop talking. Honestly, in this scene, I thought Bishop was going to have another heart attack, because it's like talking to a brick wall with Charity. She's convinced she's in love. Give Phil a chance. To keep a secret, dad. He's the one who writes everything for Bob Whitmore, and Bishop's upset that she kept this a secret. And then we have, Bishop saying invite him to the party. So basically, Connie did exactly what May said, and that's, hey, I heard about a party I wasn't invited to. It must have been lost. Would you like me to add you to the coming list? Yes. And then Karina looks at her watch, down to the minute. So May obviously had it scheduled out. Yeah, Connie should hear about it just about now. So that was pretty funny. Carissa and Bishop are just talking real quick, and Carissa asked for the marriage license. That way, Zora can have it in the presentation. And they go up to the safe. I believe what they say, it's in his closet. Carissa is, studying the combination. I hate those kind of locks. It takes me back to, what was it, middle school and high school, where you had to have high school. I didn't have a locker because I didn't want one, because I did not like those damn combination locks. I remember I had to have it in middle school for gym, to have it closed and the lockers. But then I remember going to high school and the combination lock wasn't mandatory. So I pretty much just carried everything in my backpack, and that was pretty sufficient. Man, those were the days, man. I remember being fit, walk around, heavy backpack, going upstairs. I need to do that more often. No, thank you. But in any case, he gets out the marriage license, and what do you have, like carpal tunnel or something, because you saw his hand trembling and whatnot after Carissa left. But he pretty much reveals, wills and deeds and everything are kept in that box, as opposed to the safety deposit box at the downtown somewhere, because since he got fired, no need of really going out there anymore. So then after she leaves, May shows up, is a bit suspicious about why Carissa wanted it. Is like, okay. And that look leads to something that happens later in the episode. And my gosh, I love May. Not all the time, because you know how fickle she's been, but at the same time, she has been vulnerable lately, which I do like. Then we have Charity and Phil talking. Charity invites Phil to the party. He doesn't want to go, but Charity is just clearly delusional, and he decides, fine, I'll go. Mainly because you can tell that even though we most likely know that Phil is playing Charity is just pushing this way too fast. First of all, the fact that Charity's family knows about them while he wanted to keep it discreet, and it's something else. I don't know. But yeah, she's just delusional. She's like, she's my look. Carissa's one thing, but at the same time, Charity is like my least favorite person to watch because it's just ridiculous. Okay, then Judy and Grace are talking about the party. You know, Judy confronts Grace about this party I heard about, and she invites Judy. And my gosh, she looks so great in this scene. Both of them did. Dante and Jacob are talking. Basically, Jacob recommends that Dante does something like the LeBron, basically to kind of get on the public's good side and, you know, kind of make like an apology. And Dante sees through this because it's like, well, okay, fine. You want me to help out a school, anything? And he mentions a school. Dante figures out that it's Carissa's school and then puts two and two together and pretty much just scoffs at Jacob because, you know, he was obviously just using him for his own gains and to make good with his wife. And it's just like, yeah, that was a bit awkward. But then again, it goes back to Jacob going back to, look, I don't just look. Instead of peace, I'll settle for quiet right now. So that was a bad move on Jacob's part. So after that, we get to Judy's presentation and the no cash exchange because everybody's asking the right question. It's way too good to be true. But 50% of the seats will add 12 new ones. And then we need 2 weeks to make a decision. So thank you. Then after the meeting, you know, Phil's like, for everything we're H&H is putting into this, we ought to get full control. Then Grace is like, there's no way they're going to go for that. And then, you know, Judy's like, well, whose side are you on, Grace? God's side. So that was, look, regardless of what you feel about the characters, I have to say, I love the way that they deliver the dialogue. I really do like the conversations that go on. This was one of the few episodes this season where I wasn't watching the clock as the episode progressed. I felt like every scene was actually pretty darn good. Yeah, I think it helped that they weren't scene jumping like they have been in previous episodes where it's like, okay, why don't we finish this conversation before we jump over to the Greenleaf house, or we jump over to see what AJ is doing and then we see what Phil and Charity are talking about. Oh, okay, now let's get back to what Grace is talking with May about. You see what I mean? I think this episode had good progress. I think it arguably had the best progression from scene to scene than any other episode so far. So any of the previous 7 episodes, at least in my opinion. Now we get to the back half of the episode, which is pretty much all taking place at the re-engagement party. All right, so the party looks like it's great. Pretty much we start off with Phil and Bishop having a talk and, you know, about what his true intentions are and everything with Grace. And, you know, they're pretty much crossing swords there. Overall, you know, once Bishop and May start talking, it's all about, if Phil said that he would quit as pastor, that would have been enough to get my blessing. If he doesn't do that, then he's never going to get it. From there, you know, Grace confronts Charity about, you know, the whole jumping in bed with H&H and they're bickering. And I knew it. Grace was going to bring up, Charity was going to bring up the whole AJ situation, and Grace. That's pretty much the only way to, you remember in the Haves and Have-Nots, when Veronica would get in someone's face and, you know, tell them off, but like the one thing to just wipe the smirk and the color, the pigment on her face is to mention Jeffrey being homosexual. Like that was the only thing to shut her up. And that was like, I'm talking like, you know, the early seasons of the show, because, you know, still being in denial about it. Now, in any case, let's see. Sophia feels like an outsider and she leaves. And once again, I just really don't know what they were doing with her in this episode. Bishop asked about, I already said that. Bishop asked about Phil's true intentions. Then we have Phil and Judy. Apparently they were a thing, leading back to that wink from earlier. You're appreciated. I'm like, wish you would wink at me like that. So we see that Charity is a bit jealous of this. Then we get to Lady. I don't even really need to say anything. Lady May put it out there, the whole 50-50 speech in regards to the H&H wanting 50-50 in regards to the seats on the board. That was one of the best speeches I ever heard. Fantastic delivery from Lynn Whitfield. That was fantastic. And during the speech, right before the speech was about to start, Carissa dips out to go to the safe. And when she opened that safe and found it empty, that's that feeling you get when you got your mouth set on something in your refrigerator or freezer when you come home from a long day of work. Like, you know what, man? this is a crappy Thursday, but you know what? I got that last slice of pie in the fridge, or you know what? That leftover, chicken and macaroni. Whew, when I get home, it's going down. Then you open it, it's empty, and you're ready to burn the MF down. That's Carissa face right there. That was her face. Now, back in her room, Sophia, I ain't gonna lie, I thought AJ was gonna pop up or some of her footsteps and everything. I'm like, okay, who's gonna pop up here without anybody knowing? Dante's dropping off the last of Nikki's stuff, and Sophia and him go for a ride. Then Judy, Judy was looking as messed up as Grace was after Charity kept blurting out her dirty laundry. And apparently her husband, Ken, wants a divorce. And I imagine that people will probably want to divorce her because she's a bit controlling. But then again, I don't really care. A domineering redhead? But in any case, Judy just found out about her father's plans about 3 days ago. So I believe Bishop mentioned earlier in the episode when Grace was telling the family about H&H True Plans. It seems that, this goes beyond Judy or Phil's heads. This is something that Bob, at the top, and he's just trickling it down. It goes back to what he says. Nobody does anything for free. There are some powers at work that we don't know about. So here's what I thought was going to happen, because we saw how crazy of a driver Dante was when Jacob got in the car of him and his friend. Because Phil asked Judy if she was okay to drive, I was like, oh, snap. Are we going to have an accident, where Dante's driving recklessly and then Judy's upset while she's driving and they get into a crash? That's what I thought was going to happen, but it didn't. We kind of move forward to the end of the party where Connie confronts May, and just like the whole car accident thing, I thought May was going to snap at Connie because she accused of her like, oh, so you make up that story to get the people on your side, so about the scholarship thing. So I'm willing to bet, even though we didn't get full confirmation, I think it's safe to say that May's name was not removed from the scholarship after talking about how she was sexually abused by her father. And then Connie goes on about the speech that she just made about the whole 50-50 thing. So Connie was pissed. Then we get Bishop and Charity, and this is the part where Charity had a Marsha. Yeah, that's it. Charity is clearly Jan, and Grace is Marsha from the Brady Bunch, because Bishop is like, can you put things on hold with Phil at least until after Grace becomes head pastor? Oh boy. So then we go to church the next morning, Grace's office, where Bob wants to put Grace in charge of everything. No interim, but the head of everything once they finish their development plan. And Grace is taken aback by this. Then we get to Charity confronting Phil. She's on fire and pretty much, tells Phil to send the recording ASAP. My gosh. Yeah, Charity's a load. That's all I got to say. But 9 out of 10, I thought this was a fantastic episode. From all again, Charity just annoys me. I was a bit confused about what Sophia was supposed to represent in this episode. Just the fact that maybe feeling unwanted, and then the first person to show remotely any interest in her being Dante leads to them having a drive. So, I don't know where that's supposed to go. But I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with the recording from Grace, what Phil's going to do with it. I don't know. And I think I failed to mention this did I mention this in my trailer breakdown? But maybe instead of using the recording to knock Grace from the head pastor position, maybe it's a situation where, hey, Grace, we found this interesting recording. Now, instead of, turning you in or whatever, how about we do this? In order to make sure our plans go through, you need to convince the deacon board to vote for Harmony and Hope. But if you don't, we're going to turn this recording in, and then your son and possibly you will get arrested. I could see that being a much more clever way of putting Grace in the position, because if Bob wanted Grace in that position, he wanted it for a reason. Because obviously he sees something in Grace that he doesn't see in Phil. So even though this recording could, and I know Charity would be heated about this, it's like, no matter what she does, Grace will not fall. I could definitely see that being a situation where instead of Grace being booted because, Phil wanted her to quit, I think it might be a situation where Grace is going to be put in a place where she has to get the people to vote or she's screwed. And I know May will be pissed about that as well. But overall, surprise. It was very surprising how well this episode was. And with that being said, guys, you know the drill. Links to my social media in the description as always. Make sure you subscribe. Trying to hit 94,000 subscribers before the end of the month. At the pace we're going, it's a decent chance we'll get there. And aside from that, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. And I will do my best to make sure my episode review for this week's episode, God's Justice, is out in a timely manner. And I believe we only got 2 episodes left before they go on break, so I will do my best to keep things moving at a good pace.